Mm-hmm.
Your Packers against the Rams.
Whereas I never say it's over till it's over. It would take quite a collapse and a miraculous turnaround by the Vikings to have the Vikings win the division.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can the Vikings get in the playoffs? Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they still can. Even at 9-8 with the 17-game schedule and 7 teams in the playoffs, it's more doable than it would be in previous years. And it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah.
Because now you'd be looking at if they're 5-6 in a regular year, you'd be going, oh, they need to win out and go 10-6, which they did that one year when Adrian Peterson almost broke the record, Eric Dickerson's record against your Packers, and then only to lose to the Packers the next week in the playoffs.
Right.
They did go on like a 4 or 5 game run in December and got it done, but it's a tall task. With the okay schedule, they can still get some things done, but they have these pesky Rams coming up here in a couple weeks too. So.
And the Rams are going to be angry. I thought, and I was on record, I said on these airwaves last week that, and I don't say this very often, I thought that the Packer-Ram game, even though it was being played in Lambeau, was a potential losable game at home because the Rams coming fresh off a bye, the Packers in desperate need of a bye, very tired, injury-prone, Aaron Rodgers with the toe thing, blah, 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 blah. And I thought that was a game that would not have shocked me had the Rams found a way to win, but the Packers won, and they're impressing me every time. They've only had 3 losses, and one of them was with Jordan Love against the Chiefs.
Right.
The other one, the opening game of the year, make excuses if you want, but they never played a snap in preseason, so that was actually a preseason game for them. And then the Viking game doesn't surprise me because they always split every year, at least most years. And the fact that they lost to Minnesota in Minnesota didn't really shock me, to be honest with you.
Well, it's going to be interesting, too, at the end of the year, second to last game of the season, the Packers could have a lot of things wrapped up by that time, too. So we don't know how it goes, the health of Aaron Rodgers, as you know, with that toe, which we all got to see last week, too. Do you see that video of him showing him to prove it wasn't COVID toe? Right. He took off his I've been at a lot of press conferences. I've seen a lot of press conferences, Tom. I've yet to ever see a quarterback or any player, for that matter, hold up his foot to the camera. Of course, all these press conferences are Zoom now, so that was quite a sight.
Well, I can go the rest of his career without ever seeing his foot again. That'd be okay with me. But coming out of the bye, the Packers will have the Bears at home. Okay,
that's a win.
And then they go to Baltimore.
That's a good game. Yeah, that should be interesting.
Then they host Cleveland.
Yeah, they should win that.
Then they go to Minneapolis. Yeah, wait, they host Minnesota.
Yeah, host Minnesota.
And then they go to Detroit to wrap it all up.
Oh, there you go.
So the last 2 games, they may not have anything going on, but that goes back to the question, do you rest your starters too much and then you're rusty when the playoffs start? That's the never-ending question.
All right. No, I agree with you. Well, I look at it at, the Vikings had things wrapped up in 98, and people forget about this sometimes. Mm-hmm. But in the game they were the Tennessee Oilers at that point.
Yes.
And John Randall kind of strained his knee.
Or the Houston Oilers.
But they were the Tennessee Oilers for a year.
Oh, were they really?
Yeah, they had the old uniforms until they actually made the decision to change the name, if you watch the highlights. But John Randall kind of strained his knee in that game. So in the playoffs, he wasn't really 100%. And as we know, a pass rush might have been nice against Atlanta at the end there.
Yeah.
So it is something to think about. You never know. You can get hurt, walking while, I guess, working out at home like Aaron Rodgers did, too. So kind of interesting. But no, the Vikings lose to the 49ers. The Packers win. Yeah. Kind of a crazy day. The other thing that you have to watch out for is the other teams in the NFC. With the Eagles losing, that helps out the Vikings. So there's just a lot of different things. And as sick as it seems, because someone has to win the NFC East, the Viking fans, you might want the Cowboys to beat the Saints coming up on Thursday, right? I mean, someone's got to win the division, so you might as well pull for the division winner to win because you're trying to get in a wild card. You need all those teams underneath the division winner to lose out. So
after Dallas in the NFC East, because I don't have the standings in front of me, what is the next best record in the NFC
Philadelphia is sitting there, and they're kind of in a situation where they're okay, but they lost the game against the Giants, for crying out loud, so they're not really all that good.
And then you have to go down a tiebreaker list to see how this works out, how that works out. They're still in it.
Right.
Most definitely. A win against San Francisco will really help them out a lot.
Right. And it's one of these things, too. If you look at the NFL, how goofy it is right now, there's so many things that could happen here in the month. And it's weird to think that the end of the season is going to be the first full weekend of January, which is usually the wild card weekend, right? I mean, to think that New Year's weekend is going to be the the second to last weekend before we get into playoffs. That is crazy.
I'm old enough to remember when the season ended in the middle of December.
Right. Yeah, and like the Super Bowl was, or even just the NFL championship game was like early January, right?
I believe so. I can't be quoted on this, but wasn't the Ice Bowl game in Green Bay a December game?
It could have been. I don't think there's any doubt. But yeah, if you look at the NFC right now, the way things are sitting, the West is where all the strength is, right? Arizona's 9-2, the Rams are 7-4, San Francisco now 6-5 after the win. Yeah. The South is the one to watch because weirdly as it sounds, Viking fans, you're kind of pulling for Tampa Bay to win out that division, right?
I would too if I were them.
Yeah, 8-3. So you want them to beat up on Atlanta, the Saints, and Carolina, and you have the tiebreaker over Carolina Viking fans. And then Philadelphia's 5-7, Washington's 4-6. So you probably want Washington to win tonight if you're a Viking fan, if you want your team in the playoffs. So yeah, it's just there's a lot of division winners and a lot of stuff mediocre underneath outside of the Rams.
Yeah, and the Packers just got through sweeping the West. They have swept that division, the NFC West, and need one more loss by Arizona because we carry the tiebreaker there. Yeah. Packers are number 2 seed. So we're looking at it the opposite way. We want the division leaders to lose.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. So very interesting. Text message comes in. Zimmer's use of and non-use of timeouts really hurt the Vikings again yesterday. Well, they had a weird thing where they had to call a timeout because of Kirk Cousins lining up underneath the guard and not the center, so that was
it looked like a Chinese fire drill. I looked at you. I wasn't watching the Packer game because I couldn't. I was looking at her and said, "What is this?"
It was so
like
strange.
A Chinese fire drill.
Well, and then the other was a challenge, which I thought was a challenge that they would win. But Adam Thielen, they said there was inconclusive evidence that that's the.
Oh, I thought that he made the catch.
Yes, wasn't that weird? I thought it was pretty obvious. And then it comes back to bite you more because you got the first down anyway. And so then you lose the timeout because of that, and it was just weird. Someone texting in about the holding calls, and I think there were some obvious ones, but I think that happens a lot.
That's a league-wide issue.
Yeah, the inconsistency of that and pass interference. Don't you agree? It's just it's so hard to know.
What really is PI?
Yeah.
What really is a catch? What's a football move? What's this? What's that? I mean, a lot of us who watch football and claim that we know a lot about football really don't.
No, it's so hard. I think it's hard to be official too, right? Because they're trying to cheat on every play, both sides.
Well,
usually.
Think about it. You're looking at this in real time. We have the advantage of looking at a slow motion stop frame replay. They're looking at it in real time.
Yep, I agree.
It's a fast game.
Yeah, and there was. I mean, you could see some pretty obvious holding calls by San Francisco's Lions, but still, they still got ran on. I mean, the Vikings still just got. You could tell, even with that, they got bulldozed on the line of scrimmage. There's just no question. And you had Dalvin Tomlinson out. That didn't help, so it's just a tough deal. And then Dalvin Cook will have to get the situation on his shoulder. That's not a great
Is he okay, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't look good at the time. And I was thinking right away he might have broke his collarbone, but I don't know that. They haven't really said much about it. We'll try to maybe look for some more details on that, so we shall see. Are you, obviously you have your allegiance to the Packers. Now You are a Cubs fan, of course. Right. A lot of people in that area of Wisconsin are.
So I know how it is to lose.
Well, there's that too. But did you grow up a big fan of Bucky Badger? Are you a Wisconsin fan at all, or
not as much? I don't have any direct allegiance to the Wisconsin Badgers. When I was growing up in Wisconsin as a youngster, they were always horrible.
Yeah, that's true.
And I can remember my dad would always say, I am not going to waste my time listening to that garbage. I like that when they win. I would prefer them to win. I actually watched the game against the Gophers.
Quite a game.
Isn't that the first time they've had the action in Minnesota since when?
Well, a couple of years ago they won at Madison. It's the first time they beat Wisconsin at home since the early 2000s. So, the Badgers have taken care of Minnesota, whether it be in the Metrodome and now at the artist formerly known as TCF Bank Stadium. I think it's Huntington Bank Stadium now.
Right.
But that was quite a scene with them storming the field and doing jump around and kind of mocking which is a cool thing, I think, by the way, at Madison, that they do in the fourth quarter. But
we were listening to Barrero on the way home on the 740, the fan. We were down in that area for a family visit. He was making a big deal about when's the last time a field got stormed for somebody tying for second.
That's a very good point.
He made a real funny bit out of it.
They have kind of taken it usually has to be for a bigger deal than that. That's very true, because they did just win the Axe a couple of years ago. Yes, in 2019. So, or 18. It was 18 that they won it in Madison. All right, Tom, thanks so much. Congratulations to your Packers. A nice win yesterday at home, and we'll talk to you again very soon. And keep this weather coming. This is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week. Thanks, man.
You bet. Thank you. Too Tall Tom Szymanski helping me. Derek Hanson out with sports here. Jack Michael's on the road with UND women's basketball. Joel out a little bit under the weather. Text message comes in. Did Joel develop a post-loss sniffle? I think a lot of us did after they lost to the 49ers yesterday. Jeff Kolpak's going to join us coming up at 8:35, I should say, to talk about the SCS playoffs and his book, COVID Kids. All that and more coming up here on News and Views. Welcome back. News and Views Radio Network. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp, Abby Miller producing. So do you think you can live off $14 million a year?
I'd be close, but I think I could.
Yeah. Byron Buxton, another sporting news for you, signs a 7-year, well, I guess they've agreed to terms on anyway, the Minnesota Twins and Byron Buxton, on a 7-year, $100 million contract. So a little bit over $14 million a year for him. Not too bad. And as weird as it sounds, we were talking about this with Dan Michaels in the last hour, some of these contracts that are out there. It's a pretty good bargain, actually, in the market that is baseball for a guy that potentially could be a superstar if he can stay healthy. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch here. So
that would be like nothing compared to what NFL players make, though, right?
Not actually, because, well, it's more of a divvying up the pie thing. So like a quarterback, yes, because, you know, Kirk Cousins makes $40 million this year.
Yeah.
But for the average player, because there's 53 men on a roster, you're kind of having to divvy up the salary cap pie. There's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. There's a luxury tax if you spend over an amount, you have to give it to other people. You know, they have to, the other teams are not spending that much. So baseball, you can get a pitcher making $30 million. There's been a couple of those already. Those are the guys who make a lot of money because they really determine the outcome of the game more than anything is the pitchers. So even though they play once every 5 days, they are kind of like the quarterback of the thing. So, yeah, baseball players, and they kind of started the free agency thing, Curt Flood. We could go into a long history lesson about this stuff that would really bore you to tears. This is where Amber would say, stop, I don't want to hear anymore, stop, I don't need this history lesson. So she asked me a question up to the point she doesn't want to hear the answer anymore because brevity is always my biggest thing on one of these things, that's for sure. All right, well, talk with Jeff Kolpak coming up, promote his book, and again, he's the host of The Golf Show when it's nicer on our sister station, It's nice to think about golf right now.
It is.
Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. News and Views time is coming up on 8:38. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp today, who's under the weather. Abby Miller producing. Got a text message in. Derek, shout out to Fertile Beltrami. A great season. Yeah, finished runner-up. Great season, them. Also for the community, for what they've done to get people down to the stadium. Shows what businesses and small communities can do. Yeah, they got a bunch of buses so people go down to the Twin Cities. Also, and Jeff Kopach's with us, former columnist, Bison beat writer, and also got a book out right now we'll talk about in just a bit, and host of the golf show when the weather's a little bit nicer and the grass is a little bit greener anyway. Hello, Jeff. How are you this morning?
Hello, Derek, and we could probably do a golf show this Wednesday.
It looks pretty nice, doesn't
almost
it?
50.
Yeah, we get Tootal in on that too. You probably knew about the Chatfield story too on my side of the river with the players' parents suing to get their son to play. And I was so torn on this because obviously I always pull for teams in the region to win. But I was kind of thinking if Chatfield could prove that they could win without this player suing, because, I mean, the unsportsmanlike conducts were justifiable. After further review, which I saw many times watching the game, it was justifiable. And I don't think the judge wanted to set a precedent of everything. Every time we have something like this, we sue the Minnesota State High School League. So I was kind of, on one hand, I was glad that Chatfield proved that they could win 14-13, but my heart was broken for those West Central area Ashby kids who played so hard too.
Yeah, and isn't it this time of year just great when you have football and playoffs and something we didn't have a year ago, certainly.
Right.
But that suing of the Minnesota High School League, it's just another level. I mean, where is it going to stop here? Parent involvement. I think a while ago we invented the helicopter parent.
Yeah.
And I saw on Facebook somebody said this parent, I can't remember what they called it, but it's just like a whole nother level of parent intrusion into athletics. And, we all knew that was going nowhere. I mean, you just look at the replay one time, right?
Well,
one time.
He headbutts the first time. Yeah, he headbutts one of the Barnesville kids the first time. Then he kicks another pretty obviously. And at some point, you wonder, well, why? And then he shoves, when he gets kicked out, he shoves one of his teammates who's trying to console him. So, and I hate to talk about a high school junior, but his parents brought this on. I think we know why he's acting this way. He's been enabled. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I don't know what happened with the coaches, the athletic director, or the administration there.
They backed they were not in favor of the ruling. I'm pretty sure of that. They backed the suspension, and thankfully they didn't get involved. On the other end, I go back to, we have a problem with hanging on to referees, and I'm really talking about the youth hockey level,
right?
And mites and, well, not so much mites, but maybe bantams and peewees and squirts. We have trouble finding referees, and there's a shortage out there, and you can't continue to throw heat on the refs in this manner of litigation. I mean, who's going to ref when you're getting sued? I mean, this is just a whole other level. So, when in baseball, same way. I mean, parents, we got to continue to legislate this as far as mitigating their behavior. No, you cannot yell at the ref, and it's a judgment call, especially in hockey. I mean, hockey penalties, we all know, they're almost all judgment, and you just got to let it go. And here's the other thing is, and when we coached our youth baseball days, we were stickler for this. You do not talk to the ump. You do not. Let us handle any situations arise where there might be a ruling in question. But I think what it does, more than anything, is it gives your kids an excuse to lose. Blame it on the ref and an excuse to lose instead of, not getting picked off or maybe pitching better or coming to the game a little more focused. You blame it on the ump. And we just can't go down that road. We got to continue to work on that. I think youth associations need to continue to work on that and continue to work on it until we can figure it out. Because what's going to happen when there's no more umps, referees, or linesmen?
Well, it's funny you say that. Yeah, it's funny you say that, and he's going to kill me for talking about this because my boy's last wrestling match, went to the fourth overtime, and a bad call was made, and the backup ref actually tried to say, hey, I think I would have given it to him, whatever. I mean, the long story goes, as it gets brought up, I said, well, could you have gotten another takedown? Or one takedown? It was one.
Yeah.
And I just said that. Don't put yourself in a situation like that. I mean, same thing. You had Zimmer yesterday kind of complain about holding. That's kind of how it goes. Usually, if you point it out to the official, they're going to look at it. I mean, we used to do that in high school football. They'll look at it a little bit more. But you kind of have to take care of your own problems, too, and not put yourself in a situation where that pass interference no call, well, maybe you don't worry about it if you don't throw essentially a pick six, a pick that turns into six, right? And that's the nature of sports.
Yep, you hit it on the head. It is the nature of sports. Maybe if Cousins, wouldn't have thrown that interception at the 20-yard line, things may have been different. Again, it's just got to be a collective effort by people out there to we need our refs and we need our umpires, and we cannot keep going down this road of suing when things don't go your way. That's unreal.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that that the administration there for Chatfield, because the first thing, if I would have heard about this from the parents, I'd have said, well, he's not playing anyway. Don't put this cloud over our, because if you'd have played, it would have been just an awful cloud over the team, right? I'm
guessing the AD and the principal have probably heard an earful from this guy or husband and wife anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing they're the type to complain all the way through, and they. The minute they heard he was suing the Minnesota High School League, they probably said, hit the road, buddy. You've been doing this. I'm just guessing. But you just don't all of a sudden sue the Minnesota High School League without prior behavior of some sort.
Yeah, it's so strange. Jeff Kolpak with us again, former Bison beat writer. Before we talk about your book here, Bison, they find out their destiny here. What a weird end of the season for some of these Missouri Valley Football Conference teams, because Southern Illinois lays an egg at home against Youngstown. South Dakota, then because of that, hosts Southern Illinois, and then the Salukis take care of business. It's just been a weird deal.
South Dakota, I thought, looked tired to me on Saturday. It looked like a tired football team, and maybe that stemmed from when they won the Hail Mary against South Dakota State. Maybe they just lost their, I don't know. Maybe that was too much. Because they came up to NDSU, and NDSU just flattened them on the regular season finale. And then the playoff, they just looked tired. Their O-line was not good. Running backs just were average. Quarterback had his worst game of the year. Southern Illinois didn't. They're coming up here on Saturday. It didn't look like world beaters anyway, and that's a weird team too, because they were 6-1 at one point and lost 3 of 4 in a stretch, and some puzzling losses too. Just get crushed by Youngstown, which we saw the week prior out in Youngstown. The Penguins looked like they mailed it in against NDSU, and then they go on the road and just rush for McLaughlin at almost 200 yards at Southern Illinois. I'm not sure what we're going to see with the Salukis coming up here. You got to remember, they're the team. NDSU has a little payback, I guess. I know coaches don't go for it publicly, but players remember that the winning streak was broken at Carbondale last spring. And it was broken in a big way, 38-14. So I would imagine a lot of the Bison players remember that, and you just don't forget that as a player. So we'll see what the Bison have played well the last 2 weeks. That's the best back-to-back stretch they've had all season.
Yeah, no question. And Cam Miller's finding his groove, isn't it? This is his team now.
Well, and that's mutually exclusive too. The fact the quarterback's playing well. And, Cam Miller brings he's the more prototypical West Coast offense quarterback, high percentage passes, good medium range accuracy, can run the ball once in a while. Threw a deep ball to Christian Watson at Youngstown. That was a pretty shot. Just reads defenses, I think, and feels the pressure more than anything. I thought Quincy at times just couldn't feel the blitzes and the pressures, and teams kept coming at him. Or Cam just has a better, I think, feel for that. You got to know where guys are coming from, and whether you can audible away or just scramble away. But UND just kept coming at Quincy, and I just don't know if he felt where the pressure was coming from. I think Cam's got a little better feel for that. And plus, he's a true freshman last year too at Southern Illinois. You got to remember that when you're a true freshman, that's just hard anyway.
Yep.
And now I think this will only be a 6 or 7 start. He's still he's a pretty young guy.
That's very true. Jeff Kolpak has a book out as well. We saw this at Mindeck Market. I know there's a lot of other places to get COVID Kids. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration to write this book, Jeff.
Well, this is my third one, and I never really set out on force feeding and planning to do 3. They just sort of came to me. And then this one was probably a result of my son playing Bismarck State. They were playing in a junior college tournament in Tucson. We left here with a bunch of parents on a Friday, March 13th. I'll never forget it. Everything was still on by the time we landed in Mesa on the Allegiant flight. Everything was off. It was that quick. And you remember how quickly everything shut down. And I just remember on the flight back thinking, this is really weird. I just started keeping a journal for a few months just because I like to write. And I just kept a little journal. And over the course of that summer, I just maybe I got something here and started going back at Moorhead High football. I talked to Kevin Feeney and a bunch of others on their shut. That was the best team they'll ever have. I mean, Moorhead will never have a team like that, I don't think. And they never got a chance to prove it. Same with Devil Lake girls basketball. They got shut down after winning the semifinal. 1 minute they're all high and mighty, their best team in 30 years, going to a title game, and then 10 minutes later the whole thing shut down, season over. And the striking nature of that was really emotional on the kids, and that was obvious to me when I talked to them, several months later. That like, wow, this is really powerful here, and of course Bison football going through the messed up spring, and Bison basketball winning the summit and not being able to go to the NCAA tournament, shut down that week, and that's stuff that you'll never get a chance.
Yeah.
Well, pros can have another year, right? College, you're especially high school. College, they gave him another year. High school, no. Trey Feeney and the boys never got another year.
Yeah, well, my hometown was that way too, man. I have a young cousin who's the quarterback, trust me, playing football for Gordia. That was a team we'll never get either, too. It's the same thing, yeah. And it's a tough deal. I feel bad for him, that is for sure. Well, Jeff, looking forward. And as I mentioned, I was at Mindeck Market. At other places, I'm sure around town, you can get it too, right?
Yeah, Zambros, Ferguson's, Gratefuls, and for your out-of-state people, Amazon.com, for the mail delivery.
All right. Very good. Jeff, thanks so much for your time. I do appreciate it on this Monday. Have yourself a great holiday season if I do not see you before then.
Good. Nice talking to you, Derek. All right. Have a good day.
You bet. Thank you very much. Jeff Kolpak, again, a new book out, COVID Kids. I saw it at Mindeck Market on Friday when I was there for Black Friday. That, along with eating caramel corn and summer sausage and honey and all the other things that he has in there, that was didn't really do well on my diet. And I have a confession to Abby when we come back, talking about how I cheated my diet on Black Friday, too. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. 8:54. This hour flew by. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp, who's under the weather today. Abby Miller producing. So I've been, as Abby knows, I've been really trying to watch what I eat for the past year and change, and a lot of different things. I haven't had sweets, and this time of year is awful because people bring stuff to the break room all the time, and we get Christmas food, and at our house we had a big baking session yesterday going on. So so it's hard not to cheat, and I've done okay. I mean, I still have, I got a lot to try to chisel out, and I'm just like a big rock right now, but I'm getting there. I'm on my last notch of my belt. So my thing is, do I actually go purchase another belt or just poke a hole in, like my grandpa Wayne used to teach me how to do? My grandpa Tonsel used to do that.
Just keep poking the holes. Yeah.
Poking the holes.
I think
for now.
you could. That's a fun thing to buy, a new
It
belt.
is. Yeah, it's just kind of, because it kind of falls off my rear more than it does my belly right away, so that's kind of what's going on. So and I don't like pulling up my pants all the time, so I got to go through that. But I cheated a little bit on Friday, not only because I went to Mindeck Market and took part in that, but someone left a monster cookie in the back of the studio.
Ooh, that was Joel and I.
So I was going to call you and say, Abby, you left your monster cookie here.
No, I had already
But
had
instead, if I ever find a wallet, I always give it back, right? I'm not going to take any money out of it. I'm only going to do that. If I find a purse, I'm going to try to find the rightful owner of it. But in the case, I have to admit, Abby, I ate the cookie. I took the monster cookie.
Good.
Oh, my heavens. Monster cookies, of all the things, they are one of my biggest vices. Just the oatmeal, some of the things I love, along with the peanut butter in there and the M&Ms and just everything about it. It's the perfect cookie.
I think it was either Joel or one of his sisters that made those.
Oh, and they were delightful.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever want to see them around here again. Because it's tough enough, man. It's hard this time of year.
I can't say no to sweets.
I know. So I can't wait till the New Year's thing. I got to do it now. I'm so far behind. I've let myself go way too much. So I'm trying to eat healthier and do all this. Oh, we love it when you bring stuff here. I mean, next thing we're going to have more chippers come by. It's never easy.
Oh my gosh, those giant boxes last week.
Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. And actually, Derek Hanson in for Joel today. Joel a little bit under the weather on this Monday after the long holiday weekend. Abby Miller producing. And also tag teaming with me for the first segment here, thank goodness, because we kind of doing this on the fly, is Tyler Axness.
Morning.
Host of an afternoon show here on the flagship of the News and Views Radio Network. Also, the main guy at NDExplains.com. And a lot of stuff to get to today after kind of a crazy 4-day weekend for so many of us. But tomorrow's a big day in North Dakota because, well, the Ethics Commission is getting challenged more or less. And I guess if we want to do a sports analogy, I guess people don't necessarily want to be they want to have referees, I guess. Is that a good way of comparing this a little bit?
Yeah, I think that might be fair, Derek.
Yeah.
When it comes to this commission in general, there was active lobbying to not have this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And the road barrier, for the most part, had been the North Dakota legislature. They didn't want, there was no unethical behavior is the argument that they were always throwing around. And that was the arguments when we provided them an opportunity to create something of their own mind, and they rejected it outright. So the voters said, we'll take this into our own hands. We'll create this commission. But they'd left it up to the committee to set kind of their own rules and guidelines. And I think that's where, if you've been following along lately, where some of the rub is coming, because you have those that help create this measure that ultimately passed, saying, look, some of what you're doing doesn't exactly adhere to what we thought we were creating when we voted on this. And in particular, when it comes to conflict of interest, for those that, may have taken large campaign contributions from any given industry individual. And if they've got, say, a law or a decision before them that might have an impact on that, they want to have some clarity there. And it seems like that might not be the case right now.
It is because that line has been so blurred between just traditional lobbying, which makes some sense, into, obviously if you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours type of thing. And it's at every level of politics. It's every level of government. And I think, in a small pond here, it's pretty easy to see the fish swimming around that fishbowl. And I think that's the problem, right? I mean, and they don't like it because I think they could go out and have a lot of things were hush-hush in Bismarck. Why is that going on, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I think you've seen it firsthand, and I'm sure you've been lobbied before when you were in the state.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but that's part of the deal, but you certainly want to make sure that you're not doing something just because you're going out to dinner with someone.
Yeah, get that little campaign contribution check. I think the best way to describe this is to provide examples of where there could be conflicts here, just in general. And I'm not saying it has been a conflict of interest, but this is where an independent observer could say, well, were they swayed at all? And I think of anything that has to do with, say, the Industrial Commission. You got 3 members of the Industrial Commission: the governor, the attorney general, and the egg commissioner. And they're dealing with things, anything from water topics to energy to agriculture. Well, if you have something before you that's going to have the competition and the industries of, say, agriculture and energy kind of button heads, does the campaign contribution from one side weigh onto you as a decision maker on who gets a permit or who does not? Is I think where they're trying to have some clarity here. I don't know where the line needs to be drawn. I'm not saying, and I don't know that they are. I've got nothing to do with this. I just want to be completely honest there. To where, all right, Derek Hanson, you're the governor right now. And you got, I'll just pick, North Dakota Farmers Union, great organization. They made a campaign contribution to you, and there's a decision before you. You wouldn't have to just say, look, my hands are tied on this. I can't have a say, because then you've only got 2 people on that committee can do this. So it's not an easy black and white solution here.
No. But I mean, as you said, the problem is that the citizens of North Dakota wanted to get a police force, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of one of these things, but you didn't like how it was set up because, and you kind of reap what you sow because you are not being proactive in the situations. I talk about being proactive and reactive all the time. I mean, it's safe to say the North Dakota legislature was not proactive.
Oh, they had multiple opportunities to do this in the way that they would have wanted to have it see the way of the landscape for themselves, to give themselves the benefit of the doubt, but they just completely outright rejected it time after time after time. And this is just one of the latest examples to where, all right, well, let's get that initiated measure process rolling. And that, Derek, is why after this one passed, you saw a vigorous attempt by lawmakers and special interests to curtail what initiated measures can be done.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that too, because gets into a topic I want to talk about later too. Initiated measures. You think about what just happened in South Dakota and the Supreme Court ruling there.
Furious.
Well,
and
that is, you look at that situation and how it kind of relates to this is that people in the legislature want to have control of everything. I don't think there's any doubt, but to just throw it out to say that we're not going to respect the will of the people. If I'm the governor who's looking to go a little bit further on in life, by the way, obviously, than just being the governor of South Dakota,
in government,
I think I'm going to listen to the will of the people and said, okay, we aren't going to do it the way that you did it, but we have to do it. We have to get together with the legislature this upcoming year and get this done, because they don't meet every other year like North Dakota, right? I think they meet every year.
They do. It's I think 40 and 40.
You have to do that. Honestly, you have to do something. Otherwise, granted, she'll probably win anyway, but it just is not. It's a sickening feeling.
There was a tightrope being walked by Governor Noem when that court case came, because if I recall, and somebody in South Dakota, I know we got South Dakota listeners here on News and Views, gave that standing in court to allow for it to be heard in that way, to where it got thrown out. So after that decision comes down, which people rightfully outraged, because look, your vote didn't even matter in this situation. She said, whoa, that doesn't mean we're not implementing some of this. We've got some people over here working on the medical marijuana side, trying to say, look, maybe I boxed myself in here. I don't know if it's as easy to say, well, she'll easily get reelected. She didn't win the first race by that much.
Well, it's hard to say. I think that's the frustrating thing is, you and I think have both admittedly voted probably more left over the past how many years, but I think the fact that there's a little bit of, whether it be the North Dakota legislature snubbing their nose that wanted to have an ethics commission that the citizens of North Dakota wanted, or this vote in South Dakota's, I think they feel like they pretty much have whatever they want. They're not going to lose to a Democrat, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the way the feeling is. So they feel like they can pretty much do whatever they want. And so,
look at the election results for the last 6 elections. They can get away with damn near anything these days.
So if there's if you're not going to have anything to be punished by, I don't know why you would not change whatever you believe. Governor Noem and me, I certainly find some of the stuff that she says, I get some of the stuff I don't. A few years ago, I want to say it was just a couple of years ago, she was comparing, she didn't want hemp because it might confuse the law enforcement. I talked to my law enforcement friends and family on that, and he goes, we don't get rope confused with the actual marijuana very often. Trust me on that. That's just a few law enforcement officials. Don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of crazy to think that that's where we're at. And if there's no pushback because the Republican legislators are going against, or the governor is going against what you're voting for, I don't know why you would not just run it like an emperor. Then it's kind of crazy.
Well, like you're getting at here. There's been no accountability at the ballot box. You can say do whatever. It's all about what team you're on. You want to talk about sports analogies as we started. It's about what team you're on, and if as long as it's the same team, we'll be willing to look the other way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I know sometime this week we hopefully will talk to Dina Butcher and the others. Obviously, she's the Republican co-chair for the North Dakotas for Public Integrity, and this is going on tomorrow with the Ethics Commission. We shall watch. I love September. It's one of my favorite times of year, and I'm sure it is for you too, because that's when the Panthers were good.
Wow. You're going to end
that
this
was
like that?
No,
you know what? We lost. You lost. Playoff berths wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
Eagles going out.
Tyler, Carolina Panthers fan. I've been waiting on that. I thought I was going to have to wait till this afternoon to do this, but no. Now, it's frustrating, isn't it? You have you got off to such a good start, and then things are falling off.
3-0,
and we're just seeing that. And my team's just mediocre. It's just the way it goes. A guy whose team is not mediocre, sitting 9-3 right now over in the Weather Center, obviously the News and Views Weather Center, is too tall Tom Szymanski. His team's about ready to go for another division title. Yeah, that's for sure. It is weird. Don't you think that, guys, that they could fit these buys in within a 4-week span, right? They don't, because you only need like 2 AFC, NFC games, right, on each channel, and then a Thursday night and a Monday night game. So 7 games at the most? You don't need to have all these teams off, spread out from the middle of October all the way until December. That's ridiculous.
I think anything before week 4 is too early.
Right.
Anything after, say, week 10 or 11 is too late. How about this? Give the whole league a week off in the middle of the season.
No, let's not get crazy
What would I
here.
do on that Sunday?
No.
then?
Oh, you have a life. You can figure something.
No, we really don't.
Yeah, not on Sundays, my man.
Oh, come on.
You know that melancholy feeling we have the week after the Super Bowl and there's no football?
There's golf.
I don't need. Well, there's that. Speaking of golf, you can maybe go out.
Help your wife do some housework.
No,
They don't like
blasphemy.
that.
Yeah. Speaking of golf, some people maybe could do that this week. It's what a nice forecast you got in store for us.
Well, yeah, if there's some opening golf courses, which I don't know. I won't be because I'm still.
Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Tyler Axnes from ND Explains. Also, afternoons here on the flagship of the News and Views Radio Network. A couple things. Mm-hmm. Last week, you and I were talking quite a bit because it affected my hometown of Barnesville. Young man got suspended because he got, I guess, two unsportsmanlike conducts, headbutted a kid, then kicked a kid. And it's both on tape for everyone to see. And then his parents sued. Luckily, the judge said no.
The right decision.
Yeah. I wanted West Central area Ashby to win because they're a local regional team for where I'm at. But yet I was kind of glad that Chatfield was able to win at 14-13 in the fact that they proved they could win without it.
That quarterback, that starting quarterback.
Right.
And I would encourage you, if especially I would say maybe on the western side of the News and Views Radio Network, probably hadn't seen the story or may not have seen the video of when this quarterback was playing against Barnesville. And as you just described there, and to have I'm sure just as any other time, you get a flag for an unsportsmanlike to say, hey, you do that again, you're out. That's the due process of the High School Activities Association. You do it again, you're out. Well, he did it again, and he gets out, and then you know what, you're out for the next game. And to have what I think should have been a teachable moment because of the way of which he conducted himself. Look, you don't conduct yourself that way. To have a parent's attempt to bail him out, I think was the latest example of some of the way of which things have just gone wrong in the way we're all.
That would have set a bad precedent if the judge would have ruled the other way. And I think if Chatfield would have won it with him, it would have been a cloud over that. Where I think for that community, that football program, they're probably.
If you would have been the coach, so let's say that just theoretically here, that the court did come down and say, look, there was no due process. That's not what happened. They said, no, this worked the way it should have. But they said on the flip side that, all right, well, he can play. If you're the coach, do you let him play?
No.
You can't.
But yeah, and I would love to know if you could get everyone there, whether it be the athletic director, principal, superintendent, the coach, what they're dealing with. And we don't know the type of power, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I mean, some parents are school board members sometimes, or they have a big influence, a big business in town. You just don't know. I don't know what the structure is there, but for sure. And from the rumors, that they weren't very happy about the lawsuit. The coach and everyone else. So, I mean, because it obviously clouds what they're trying to do is have these young people win a state championship, which they did eventually do. Text message comes in and said, Derek, did I miss something? Did the courts throw out the marijuana issue in South Dakota? Yes. The Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional.
Yeah,
so.
and it was, it didn't, and this is according to South Dakota. And so I'm using that as saying I don't fully follow. But according to the way it is down there, it has to be, if you're doing an initiated measure, I think that's constitutional, it has to be focused on one issue. Well, for me, I'm not a judge, I'm not an attorney, I don't pretend to be one. They said this impacted too many different things. It had legal use of marijuana, it had medical marijuana, it had all these other, it was all related to pot. Mm-hmm. So there was some grayness there that was taken advantage.
I mean, I think the one thing that you could say is because it's still scheduled as a Schedule A for the feds, which is problematic too, and which I will say is a huge mistake by this administration. And now that you got control, I mean, listen, I criticize the Democrats many times. Because I think their messaging
it's terrible.
A win for them is this issue.
Well, we got an election next year. You wait till about August.
Why wasn't it brought up last year?
You're going to see the writing on the wall. The polling's going to be bad. Like, we really need to pull something here, boys.
Well, yeah, because the polling is not going well for Dems.
It's a midterm in which you've got complete control.
Well, I'm going to have Dr. Jeff Baumgartner coming up here in the 10 o'clock hour because you're political analyst. I mean, you look at this thing with this new variant, this Omicron variant, and, it's going to get people scared again for lockdowns and things like that, more mandates. Man, people are going to be exhausted by this. This is not what the Democrats need going into the midterms.
They're already exhausted.
Yes.
And quite frankly, Derek, I think a lot of people have just tuned it out. The average Joe, I think, has just tuned it out.
Well, but it's just constant. I mean, the national news here and all that, it's just, and I think you're right. And unfortunately, if it becomes a very serious thing, it's going to be, because I think a lot of people, and I'm not talking Republicans, Democrats, I'm talking about the swing voters who decide elections, they're exhausted of it, and it's like a cry wolf thing, right? I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of people have died, and don't get me wrong on that, but it's just it's never ending. And I think politically, and it shouldn't be politically, but it's become so political for the past 18 months. It's not going to be a good thing. So we shall see.
Well, you saw what happened on the markets on Friday.
Yeah,
so
that's for sure. How it swings that. Yep, very good. Tyler, thanks so much. NDExplains.com if you want to check out Tyler Accents. Derek Hanson, got a lot of text messages. Derek, do you think this kid will get teased for a long time? I don't think so. I think he's, one of the star athletes there. It's just one of those things where he acted poorly, and I think he was a little bit enabled as well. More to come here. Derek Hanson in for Joel on the News Views Radio Network. Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on this Monday. Hope that you had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Seems like those 4 days fly by faster than any 4 days in the history of days. It's kind of crazy. Did you have a good time, Abby Miller? Did you?
I did. Yes.
Other than you had to work.
That's okay.
Those 2 days, but
Friday was fun. I hadn't worked at Cheap Shots yet.
yeah.
But it was fun. It was quite the crew in here.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a good time. I listened to quite a bit of it.
Yeah,
and then people kept wanting to call in and enter whatever they wanted, even after Cheap Shot was over, as I'm trying to do other stuff. But we got through it anyway. Yeah, so hopefully it was good for you. It's really nice out this week. But one thing I'm concerned about is, so I went to my folks' lake and walked on the ice. It's frozen over, but I think I see people kind of walking out and they're, walking and they're putting their portables, and I think there's plenty of ice for that. But don't be the first guy to make the news for going out and driving on the ice. Not yet, anyway. So
it's been way too warm, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be kind of warm this week too. I think the one thing about if it stays and doesn't melt, and some of that ice is nice and flat, no snow on it yet. We do need some snow around much of this area because of moisture and lake levels and river. I mean, it's such a Goldilocks thing, isn't it? Where it's too low some ways, and then it's too high in some other years, and so we could find it right. All right. A couple text messages coming in. If you want to join us here on News and Views, 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. You can text us 35270. When Tyler and I were talking about the North Dakota and South Dakota not wanting to really respect the people of their state and what they vote for, we talked about marijuana, the recreational marijuana bill going down in South Dakota by the Supreme Court. And a text comes in and says, Tyler and Derek, have you mentioned that North Dakota and South Dakota have the best governors ever? They don't want and need recreational marijuana because that is a gateway drug, and that is a fact. Out-of-state money came into South Dakota in a big way to illegally convince voters to vote for this miserable marijuana. Texter, I will not disagree with you that marijuana can be a gateway drug. I think the beef I will have with people who always want to say that and talk about that is there are a lot of things that are gateway drugs. Go back to when you were in junior high, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and you're able to sneak a cigarette and got a little bit of that buzz feeling from that. Guess what? That's a gateway drug, and it's still legal in America. Alcohol is a gateway drug, and you can talk to a lot of doctors. I know a lot of people get upset about this, but alcohol does probably more damage than much of what you get with marijuana. Certainly when you come to any type of edibles, I don't think putting smoke in your lungs is exactly probably a good thing for you, but it's been said time and time again. If anything, they're equal on par with that. I mean, there's no question. You think about what alcohol does to people's insides, what can affect on the outside with drinking and driving, how many deaths we've had because of alcohol, which many times can lead to heart disease. I think the question is, it really comes down to, should marijuana be looked at the same as it is heroin, cocaine, crack, fentanyl? No. But that's what we got to balance. And I think anything that a state can say where I think they could actually have some, look at it with the feds, what they're doing on this, I would totally agree with you. The fact that the state could say, we don't want to deal with this. We don't want the feds down our neck. Now, obviously, the feds have looked their other way on this, which I don't understand why there hasn't been more push within Congress in D.C., whether it be the president, whether it be senators, whether it be representatives saying, hey, we got to do something about this. We got to change this. This is a little bit ridiculous to treat this the same as others. And the biggest thing when it comes down to marijuana convictions, how different it is when it goes to, people of color spend more time for dealing marijuana than white people over the history of this country. That's just, there's just no getting around it. That goes into many different layers. And that's not right either. To have these offenses and, clogging up our jail with people that are dealing a little bit of pot is not really using our best resources when it comes to trying to make sure that we keep people in prison for violent crimes. And you can look at a week ago when we were talking about the tragedy in Wisconsin for that very reason. Those are the type of people that should be set with a high bail and not be able to get out on a whim instead of someone who's selling a dime bag, for crying out loud. It just doesn't make any sense. So I just want to throw that out. For me, I think that we have to have a reasonable conversation about this. And as someone who's voted more left, I cannot believe that the Democrats have been dragging their feet to not champion this for a generation of people that think this is ridiculous that we have such stringent laws against this. And the feds are looking the other way in Colorado, and they're looking the other way in Washington and Oregon and California. It's time to fix this. If you're not going to go and try to actually enforce laws, it's like long before Abby's time producing the show, we had so many talks about cohabitation laws in North Dakota, how they're not enforced. Why are they on the books? It's ridiculous to have these silly laws. Well, the same thing here. We got to fix this to fit with the times. At some point, these laws have to adjust with the times. Derek, tobacco is the real gateway drug, even worse than alcohol, and has literally been proven to have altered to make it more addictive. It has killed a lot more people than booze. I don't disagree. Another text, LOL, alcohol is a gateway drug, much worse than marijuana. Tell these people to stop watching Reefer Madness. That's an old film that goes back, a scare tactic, so you don't use it. And I'm someone who does not use marijuana. Every once in a while, I do have like CBD stuff that I'll put to take care of some aches and pains and all that. But I've never, ever, and I will admit that I tried it. I didn't like it. Unlike Bill Clinton, I did inhale, but I didn't like it. And I didn't like how I felt from it. I was just kind of tired and groggy. It's just different. So I'll stick with my couple glasses of Merlot. But I think when you look at the overall what alcohol does, if we're going to leave alcohol legal, and we obviously are going to do that because we don't want to go through what happened in the 1930s again, and what a mess that was with prohibition. The prohibition on marijuana is not working. It's not enforced. And when it is, it's very kind of picky where they are enforcing it and how they're doing it. It's got to be mass amounts of it. And I think that we have to revisit this at some point. Now, Derek, I agree. A text messenger says, I figured the Democrats would jump on this immediately. I don't get it. It's a political winner, but Democrats don't know how to get on political winners. I'm serious. They don't understand that. Their messaging's awful. Bill Maher did a great thing on this on his last real time. If you want watching him, and he's been spot on so many things the past year and a half, and to the point where many moderate Republicans are going, man, I can't believe he's saying stuff like this. But he mentioned the fact, and he had Amy Klobuchar on, Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota, talking about the fact that Democrats are bad at messaging. And she made a quip, well, should we have you in charge of it? And he kind of said he'd certainly take that. And we all know Bill Maher is pretty liberal, but he mentioned the fact that he don't own a message on a lot of different things. I said this going back to the Obamacare debate in 2009, 2010, when the biggest, and much like you had here with the infrastructure bill and Build Back Better bill, where you have the Joe Manchins and a few of these, the senator from Arizona, where you're fighting with your own party. And that's what happened with Joe Lieberman in the Obamacare debate. They wanted to get Medicare down to 55. That was the House bill. And at the time, if you remember, where we had unemployment at a very high rate, that would have been a big thing. Get Medicare down to 55. A lot of people retire because way too many people are working. They've done a much better job than Derek Hanson has of saving their money, so they don't need to work their full-time job all the way to the point that they're 65. They can retire, maybe work a little bit less, but the reason they're sticking around is for what? Healthcare. And that would have been a much better political winner. It would have been a much better deal for Obamacare to work. Instead, you had people like Max Baucus and Joe Lieberman said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to have any part of this. Medicare for all is something that Bernie Sanders stole. If you look at a Kaiser family poll, it is a winning narrative saying something like universal health care, single payer, is something that people don't understand. But most people like Medicare. Now, most people like Medicare to be changed, make it more efficient. This is actually something that then candidate Donald Trump ran on before he became president, then started talking about cutting these things once he became president. But he did talk about making Social Security and Medicare solvent. It's something we promised to the people. And it was a big selling point to a lot of senior citizen voters at the time in 2016. But for whatever reason, now that has been such an extreme thing that Bernie Sanders and many other the very far left have grabbed. So it's no longer even a moderate thing that we can talk about of even giving it down to 55. Colin Peterson, who I've known for a very long time, former Congressman Colin Peterson, I was on these very airwaves talking about this, and he and his staff actually messaged me. And I think Colin Peterson, none of us would really think that he would be aligning and caucusing with a guy like, or agreeing a lot with a guy like Bernie Sanders, very much a moderate Democrat. But he said, yeah, it's something that this party should be doing. And he even said Medicare 50 in a conversation I had with him at a parade when we're all getting ready to go in a parade. So it's a mistake by them. They don't know how to message, and I think that they get caught up in their own rhetoric, and they don't understand what to really do to talk to the actual people out there who shower after work instead of before work. And it's a mistake, and it's something that the Democrats need to get back to. And if you look at the younger people and what they want, a lot of them want to see recreational marijuana, if nothing else, as far as the ATF and everyone who's enforcing this, not to treat marijuana as a Schedule 1, as the same as heroin, as the same as cocaine. That is ridiculous. That's got to change before anything else. All right, let's head over to the Weather Cave here in the News and Views Radio Network. And Too Tall Tom Szymanski's with us with some good news. And I don't think I'm going to get the shorts and flip-flops out, but it's certainly a lot better than, more we cut into winter, the better.
Oh, absolutely. Every day in November that we have days like what I'm predicting here is one less day of winter to have to look forward to. So I'll take it. As I've always said before, as far as snow goes, I'll take about 2 inches on Christmas Eve as long as it melts off on December 20th.
Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll take your phone calls at 237-5948. But first, we're going to check with our Farmer Ranch Director, Sarah Heinrich. How was your Thanksgiving, Sarah?
Hey, Derek. It was wonderful. So celebrated both sides, had 2 Thanksgivings in one day.
Oh, my heavens.
Belt lines were stretched. Yes, it was awesome. It was wonderful. Lots of friends and family time.
Yeah, that's great. Well, now today, the morning show here at the flagship was saying that today is where the USDA recommends you either eat the leftovers today or you're done. So what do you think of that? I mean, are you done with everything or?
I feel like that's what that is what they recommend. Absolutely. And I will not, argue with food safety standards. I think that most Americans probably don't follow that rule. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right?
I think we go by sight and smell.
Right.
If it's not green and doesn't stink, we'll try it.
If nothing's growing on it, it's still safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
sure.
most probably stretch that limit a little bit.
Yeah, you bet. What's going on today?
We're seeing a downward trend in the grain market with March corn at 9 cents lower at $5.82, March wheat at $10.43, and nickel lower. In the soybean market, January's at $12.47, down a nickel and 3/4, March at $12.57, down a nickel and a half. Cattle seeing some upward movement on a Monday morning with the January feeder cattle 95 cents higher at 168.10. Well, February live cattle are at 141.55, 35 cents higher. And February lean hogs come in at $81.03 unchanged. With your markets, I'm Farm and Ranch Director Sarah Heinrich for the News and Views Radio Network from the Enterprise Sales Ag Studio. Enterprise Sales of Valley City, your grain handling and storage experts.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Sarah. Derek Hanson, again, in for Joel Heitkamp. A text message comes in at 35270. Derek, instead of expanding Medicare to age 55, how about expanding to cover all children from birth to 18 kiddie care? I think that's something, again, that in this conversation I brought up again is what I think the Democrats make a mistake as far as their messaging. And that's pretty much when it comes to, in relation to the South Dakota bill, why they don't fight to not. First step, I think, is for Democrats to fight to not have marijuana be a Schedule I drug. I think that is probably a big political winner for them, especially for young voters. Maybe some older voters who like to partake in that activity. Baby boomers who grew up in the 60s and 70s. I think that would be another crowd. Then there's other crowds that don't want any of it. Don't get me wrong. But I also think that the Democrats, we really don't know what they stand for. Now, whether you agree with it or not, I pretty much know what Republicans stand for. Strong defense, pro-life. There used to be cut spending, not so much. Lower taxes. You know what I'm getting at here, where you kind of know Democrats right now, it's like they're floundering in the wind in one thing that they can get. Because we talk about the infrastructure bill. We talk about Build Back Better. We're coming through this pandemic, and now we have another variant coming on. I cannot believe that we're not talking about the most important thing to this when we first started talking about 14 days to flatten the curve. Part of your infrastructure is healthcare. And whether it's making Medicare more solvent, because it's not right now, taking care of the fraud, making it work for people who have it now and then maybe expanding it so it can be better for our health care, and making sure that we have more healthcare workers so we don't have these non-staff beds around and the lack of staffing on beds. That's a political winner for Democrats. That should be in the infrastructure bill because I do think it is part of our infrastructure.
Injured when their SUV struck a pickup at an intersection. It happened near the Grand Forks Airport around 4 yesterday afternoon. The SUV, driven by Dennis Nice, stopped at a stop sign, then crossed U.S. Highway 2, where it was hit by the pickup, which was westbound on the highway. Nice and a passenger, both from Grand Forks, were taken to Altrua Hospital. The pickup driver from Gilby, North Dakota, suffered minor injuries in that collision. Fatal crash over the weekend in Becker County. The highway patrol says a car driven by a Colorado man drove off Highway 34 near Osage, entered a ditch, vaulted an approach, and rolled. The victim was not belted in. The crash happened just before 6 Saturday morning. Some Minnesota farmers are anxiously awaiting a drought relief package from the Minnesota legislature as Republican lawmakers and the governor continue to reach agreement for a special session amid a tangle of COVID politics. Dan Glessing, who's the newly elected president of Minnesota's Farm Bureau, says assistance is important for producers who fed their winter supply of forage to their livestock during last summer because the pastures were all dried up.
When your winter supply is gone and you're just coming into winter, that certainly is a problem.
Glessing says some producers are facing having to liquidate their herds, and he'd like state lawmakers to pass a drought relief program before Christmas. Prosecutors will try to prove that a white suburban Minneapolis police officer, Kim Potter, committed manslaughter when she fatally shot Dante Wright, a black man, during an attempted arrest in April. Potter, who resigned 2 days after the shooting, says she meant to use her taser but accidentally grabbed her gun instead when she killed the 20-year-old man in the Minneapolis suburb of Brooklyn Center. Potter's charged with first and second-degree manslaughter. The more serious charge requires prosecutors to prove that she acted recklessly, while the lesser charge requires them to establish that she acted with culpable negligence. Jury selection gets underway for tomorrow. KFGO forecast, we're looking at partly sunny day today. It's going to be breezy. Winds out of the northwest at about 13 to 31 miles an hour. Temperature-wise, not too bad. Expected high this afternoon. Should be around 44. Partly cloudy tonight. Overnight low dipping down to 26. Partly sunny and 37 tomorrow. Moving further into the week, it's partly sunny, 32 for Wednesday, and a high 40 on Thursday. Friday, expected high should be about 34. Right now, partly sunny. And we're at currently 36 degrees. I'm Don Haney, News Radio, KFGO.
Minutes after the hour. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll take your phone calls at 237-5948. On the phone line right now, a good friend, and been chatting now for I figure on 5 years since the 2016 election. We've been able to have Dr. Jeff Baumgartner with us, part of the Political Science Criminal Justice Department at North Dakota State University. Dr. Baumgartner, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Is your good Thanksgiving for you and your fam?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had some friends up from the Twin Cities and had all our kids were here, and so yeah, it was good. You bet.
Good deal. Over the weekend, a lot of things popping up, and some news coming out that our home state, and certainly affects the whole nation. But you have President Biden going to visit Governor Walz, and they're going to go. And I think it's a smart move politically, and I want to get your, considering that President Biden has some failing, I think it's safe to say, and as far as his poll numbers are concerned, but trying to talk about the infrastructure deal and along with that Build Back Better, going to a state where he's going to have obviously some allies with Governor Walz, but also a state where we had a tragedy 15 years ago too on I-35, and certainly makes sense because infrastructure shouldn't be as political as it is, but I can see why he wants to do this in the land of 10,000 lakes.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think you mentioned politically speaking. I mean, Minnesota, is poised to be a swing state again, probably in the next election. And so I think it does make sense to come to Minnesota and to try to push his Build Back Better plan. Of course, we already have one infrastructure bill, and many of the things that would go to things like bridges and roads and things like that. Some would argue been addressed in other legislation, but nevertheless, I think it's a good move to come to a state like Minnesota. You certainly don't want to you don't want to regress in terms of counting on a state like that in the next election.
With that said, though, with the numbers and a few other things that are going on, knowing that he's going to have a pretty tough race, I'm not sure who's going to come out of the caucus season, getting the nomination for the Republicans. I mean, I think there's three names that keep on popping up. Is the president going to help Tim Walz on this? Because there's a lot of negativity going around for a lot of the swing voters too. It's got to be kind of a minefield, I think, for the Walz campaign.
Yeah, I think it is. Although, I think Walz is a dutiful Democrat, and of course will welcome the president with open arms and make the best of that. And I don't know how much. Walz has had his own his own public poll issues that from time to time at one time or another. And I think his supporters aren't gonna. I don't think they're going to bail on him, regardless of where they're at on Biden. So I think this is fine for Walz to host Biden and really promote that partnership and this Minnesota and the federal government working together. And I think that all looks just fine for Walz. But I do I do think Minnesota very much could be in play, even more so than it was this last time around, and it was in more play than we had a lot of people had thought to begin with. So.
Well, it's interesting because, and this is kind of related to the nation, and I think, with different governors, obviously every state handled the COVID response going back to March of 2020 into April when it really got kind of heated, I think, certainly around Easter time. And now we got the Omicron variant that's, coming out and making news, and it seems to be on the top of every news cycle that's going on here throughout the last 24, if not 72 hours. And we shouldn't have the pandemic be political, but let's face it, it's been political since day one. I don't think this is going to be helpful for the Democrats if this is still in the news time after time, and we're talking about more lockdowns or more vaccine mandates. For the swing voter out there, I think they're just totally exhausted of it, and then the far right's just going to be angered by it.
Yeah, I think all of that is correct. You're absolutely right, and. I think the Democrats are going to have to, look at the data on this latest variant and decide if it's something that they want to, sort of go all alarms in on, because, it sounds like it's a little bit more transmissible, maybe maybe significantly more transmissible than other variants, but it also sounds like it's fairly mild variant in terms of its symptoms, and not terribly dangerous. And so, I mean, maybe that'll change as more data comes in or whatever. But I think a lot of the public has gotten to the point where they just realize they're going to be living with this virus when it starts showing up in deer in Iowa.
Right.
It starts to be ubiquitous at that point, and I don't think people want to live in sort of perpetual fear forever.
Well, and it's interesting to bring that up. Dr. Jeff Baumgartner with us from North Dakota State University's Political Science Criminal Justice Department, because it's a hard conversation to have, right? And as you know, I've tried to have it on a lot of different levels, because as someone who's voted left, as you know, as long as I've known you, I've tried to I think the extremes on both sides of this, obviously there's been tragedy. I mean, I know I've had people that I've lost that it came down with COVID. There's no doubt. And I have people who have been sick, and, we've been, and it's been awful. But I do think, unfortunately, we have to come to the right realization, and many of the experts have said this for a very long time, that upper respiratory is not like what we're dealing with. I had Dr. Bill Maurice on from the Mayo Clinic. He said this is not necessarily like when we're talking about the vaccines, it's not a sterilization vaccine like polio or these other things where you don't say, well, I just got a mild dose of polio because I got the vaccine. Unfortunately, This is much more like a deadly flu, and the flu vaccine where hopefully you're not going to get as sick, but it also means that everyone's going to spread it, and that's the unfortunate part about it. So we do have to learn to deal with it. Otherwise, we're just going to be in this endless vortex of this, and it's just it's going to become like a never cry wolf situation.
Right. And so I just think that's something that the Democrats have to think about, and I think they have time to think about it. I mean, I think they have time to pivot, and I think they've been trying to pivot to a different message. There's still some people in the science sector of government, Fauci and others, who are making this kind of a front and center story, but and won't let this sort of fade away. But other politicians, in the Democratic Party are certainly, trying to look to other things like infrastructure, like climate change, things like that, maybe they feel more comfortable and feel stronger, in a stronger position talking about. I think I just saw some of Biden's poll numbers going up just a little bit, and I think it was largely due to the fact that he generally gets good marks again for dealing with the pandemic in general, and so I mean I think people are kind of putting it behind them and feeling like, okay, we're where we need to be on this, and so whether the Democrats will sort of affirm where people are going with this and kind of take a victory lap and move on. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it. Say, listen, this is manageable. We don't need to have this in the news every day. I think is going to be a big thing for them. I mean, it's not, and sadly, we're still going to lose people, right? People are still going to get sick.
Right.
Just no getting around it. But that's unfortunately the part of life is unfortunately death, and sometimes too young. And I just don't want to be one of those people as anyone else. I totally get that. Dr. Baumgartner, I want to ask you about going into this summer. You're going to watch a couple of things, because whether it's the president's fault or whether it's the Democrats' fault or Republicans or whatever, inflation, gas prices, is going to be a big thing when it comes to the mood, right? I mean, and perception is reality on this, and there's just no getting around it. If gas prices are sitting at $3.50, and if people are filling up their jet skis and their boats at premium at $4.35, the mood of the country is not going to be very good, and that's something I don't think there's any doubt that this administration and the Democrats got to be worried about.
They are, and yet I think there's some in the administration that are, this is going according to plan. I mean, I think there's a number of people that have been on the record that said that look, we'd like to see a reduction in carbon emissions, obviously, and a reduction in the reliance on carbon energy and gasoline and gas powered vehicles and so forth, and so. Obviously, as things become more expensive, people tend to use that less, and I think for some in the administration, this is just fine, and some in Congress as well. That they'd be happy with higher gas prices if it results in less consumption. A number of the things that the Biden administration did when they first came into office, executive orders and such, canceling Keystone, things like that. People will highlight the fact that those things in and of itself didn't reduce the supply of gasoline or crude oil to the refineries or anything in that immediate aftermath of those actions, but it certainly did send a signal to petroleum companies and whatnot as far as the regulatory environment and where the federal government was going to be, the leases that were canceled and so forth, and you're not going to be as inclined to invest in more production if you think it's going to be that uphill, costly battle with federal regulators. And so, if the Biden administration really wants to, lower gas prices, I think they'd have to do really a message shift. And I'm not sure that they're prepared to, sort of tack and somehow signal to the energy companies that we're back into all of the above strategy.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, as someone who's talked to people on the East Coast, my friend worked in Manhattan. It's one of these things where they can't understand why we need diesel pickups. So, I mean, when you got that mentality and you're dealing with coastal people who don't believe that you need more than one car, then you just don't understand what it's like here between the Rockies and Appalachians. Dr. Baumgartner, thanks so much for your time. Hopefully I'll talk to you again before Christmas. If not, have a very happy holiday, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Sounds great, Derek. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Dr. Jeff Baumgartner with us, North Dakota State University, part of the Criminal Justice Political Science Department. As we head to here on the News and Views Radio Network to the Weather Cave, I'll take your phone calls in just a bit on this very pleasant Monday and a very pleasant week ahead, too, tell Tom Szymanski.
Yeah, not much going on. Excuse me, a few flurries in northwest Minnesota, if they're even reaching the ground, and northeast Minnesota.
After the hour, Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Abby Miller producing. If you want to join us, 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. You can text us 35270. A couple text messages. Derek, the conservative news outlets have been controlling the Democratic message for years to the point where everyone believes what the incorrect version of being a Democrat is. No, I totally disagree with you because you have the power to control the message. You need to learn how to fight right. And I'm not just saying that because I used to work with them. For me, I think for a lot of people, they sit in a situation where a guy like Ed Schultz can go on MSNBC from the market of Fargo. And whether you liked him or not, he knew how to fight right. And he showed the Democrats how to fight, and they fired him. And they put a guy like Chris Hayes on there who just doesn't relate to anyone in the middle who works 40 hours a week, and the only way they get a raise is if they work overtime. I mean, that's the big thing. Derek, your comment about people on the East Coast not needing two vehicles was way off. Many back here have two, including pickups. Don't make the same assumptions about us that they think about you. Well, I'm just telling you, people I've talked to when I was out there working with my friend, and when he worked at 30 Rock with Ed, by the way, they couldn't believe that I had a pickup. What do you need it for? You have a farm? No. What do you need? I mean, trust me, this is people that I talked to, like in a group. We went out for dinner like 10 years ago. Trust me. Trust me on that one. You shouldn't paint everyone with a broad brush, but I could not believe I was having this conversation why anyone would need a 8-cylinder vehicle. Okay, so these are conversations I've had with people. And they also can't believe that we shoot deer. Seriously, they can't believe that we shoot deer. So, trust me, as someone who's traveled a little bit, these conversations have. Now, a lot of people are smarter than that. They don't understand the whole deal. But, yeah, I've had these conversations. A couple of things, a couple text messages on Medicare and what have you. We'll have much more on that. Oh, actually, I should read this one. It kind of goes into making Medicare bigger doesn't do anything except keep healthcare prices down. I believe your doctor shouldn't know particular care or have insurance. If your doctor had to post prices and get your bill and dealt with your insurance yourself, prices would come down on their own. I don't even necessarily disagree with that. And I should make myself very clear. When I talk about Medicare 55 and kiddie care, whatever you want to talk, we talked about having Medicare go to 0 to age 17. It's not even necessarily I want to go through this and get the devil in the details. I think that's one of the biggest problems that the Democrats have. Is that they get too wonky with the details. You just win on saying, and part of the reason Bernie Sanders is so popular with much of the left is because it's simple. Medicare for all, free tuition. Now, I don't agree with free tuition at all, but it's a selling point, just like when the genesis of this conversation last hour, in case you're just tuning in, how Democrats haven't looked into, at least starting with getting marijuana to get off the Schedule 1 thing as far as the FDA and looked at it as that type of drug. Trust me, they would get a lot of support with younger people if they would start there. Then obviously recreational marijuana down the road here and have it heavily regulated, which would come pretty naturally with all this. That would be one thing that would be a political winner. I'm talking about what can win for you politically. And there's got to be a lot of devil in the details when it comes to talking about starting with Medicare 55 and then eventually getting to Medicare for all down the road, because it is a public-private partnership. You don't want to eliminate all private insurance eventually, but they're the ones who handle the administration right now of Medicare. So trust me when I tell you it's a political winner for them. Whether or not the details of it are going to be solved, I mean, that's beyond the point. There's a lot of things that don't work that the Republicans support, but it wins for them politically. And we got a Supreme Court hearing coming up with a law in Mississippi from 2018. Trust me, that's been a political winner for them, right or wrong, for a very, very long time.
News and weather brought to you by Dakota Monument. Dakota Monument Company, making memories last forever. Call for an in-home consultation.
Mike on. KFGO News, it's 10:30. Two-vehicle crash near Grand Forks Airport severely injured 2 people. The T-bone collision happened shortly after 4 p.m. yesterday, 4 miles west of Grand Forks. Highway Patrol says an SUV driven by 76-year-old Dennis Nice came to a stop at a stop sign on the side of the road, then drove through the intersection and was struck by a pickup heading west on U.S. Highway 2. Nice and a passenger, 69-year-old Mary Nice, both of Grand Forks, were taken to All-True Hospital with critical injuries. The driver of the pickup had minor injuries. Dennis Nice was charged with failure to yield at a stop sign. A man is dead after being shot by police in Mounds View, Minnesota last night.
It happened around 7 o'clock last night at a plaza just off Mounds View Boulevard. Police say they were called there on a report of shots fired, that when they arrived, they received a call about a robbery happening at a nearby grocery store parking lot. A victim told police that a gunman ordered him to drive to a liquor store close by, that the suspect fled inside the liquor store. When officers approached the store, an employee ran out, telling them the gunman was inside by himself. Mounds View and New Brighton police entered the store, and several officers reportedly fired their weapons during an altercation. The suspect was pronounced dead a short time later. The Minnesota BCA is investigating. Police body cameras were active as that scene unfolded.
That's reporter Mark Fry. President Joe Biden is scheduled to stop in the Twin Cities this week to discuss the federal infrastructure package. According to the White House, the president is slated to be in Rosemont on Tuesday. He will visit Dakota County Technical College to discuss how infrastructure package will help Minnesotans and create good-paying jobs. Last time Biden visited Minnesota was in the final days of his 2020 presidential election campaign. The Fargo Park District is kicking off the holiday season with the Holiday Express event at Broadway Square on Saturday, December 4th. This free event will be from 12 to 4 p.m. and partners with the Downtown Community Partnerships Holiday Winterfest event on 2nd Avenue. Following will be the Downtown Fargo Holiday Lights Parade. You'll be able to take family photos in front of the Broadway Square, photo stations at the Christmas tree and Broadway Square bench, skating on the Shields skating rink, writing and sending your letter to Santa, and playing festive games. The Shields skating rink is open during the event with skate rentals and concessions available. Masks are required when you enter the skate shack. KFGO Weather Center forecast from Chief Meteorologist Tutal Tom Szymanski. Today, a high of 44, partly sunny and breezy, gusting 13 to 31 miles an hour. Tonight, overnight low, partly cloudy, low of 26. Tomorrow, high of 37, partly sunny skies. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
We'll take your phone calls here in just a bit again if you want. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. You can text us 35270. But we have to talk about, this has been such a great annual tradition in Fargo. And I remember just a couple of years ago, Frody Tilden coming into studio, and he gave us some, the food he brought in was unbelievable. And this is coming up at the Sons of Norway on Saturday, December 4th, this Saturday at 6 p.m., and it's a big traditional Norse Christmas event. Frody Tilden, thanks so much for being with us here on News and Views.
Yeah, good morning, Derek. It's very nice to be on with you.
It's very good to talk to you again. How you been? It's been a long time, obviously. I don't think I've seen you since March of 2020 for obvious reasons. Everyone's been kind of, hasn't seen each other as much.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's good to be back doing things like this, and a little rusty in the planning, but we're getting everything together. And yesterday was a big day for us. Me and Ola got together, and we did make some buns, 350 skolebröd. It's vanilla pudding, coconut buns for everybody, and we made 20 gallons of the glug as well. So that was a big day yesterday. So I'm a little tired today, but everything is moving on great. And it's a little slower on the ticket sale, of course. They may be a little different times now, but we have 125 sold, and we go to 250. So there's a few left, but hopefully we'll get it all sold by Friday.
All right. Well, I think getting this out there certainly is key. So if people do want to go, because you got the front fenders there, you're gonna have dance going on, and it's so a lot of good things going on as far as music and entertainment too after the dinner. Yep.
After the dinner, we have Tim Eggebrotten from the L, and he's a really good one-man band that are very good to sing and play and get the crowd involved. And after that, about 9 to 11:30ish, we got front fenders kicking up a notch with a lot of dancing tunes, so that'll be fun.
Oh, perfect. Again, you mentioned some of the foods, obviously the traditional ones that we know as. Now you're much more of a true Norwegian than me. I'm a son of Norway, but I got a little German mixed in there and all that. But for people that don't, how long have you been here? And obviously, you are a true son of Norway.
Yeah, I've actually been in Fargo, Grand Forks area now for 20 years. Today,
wow.
2021, so I've been a while.
That's great, and you really love the Sons of Norway and everything that's involved with it, right? Too. I mean, it's so much fun, and you've been involved for a very, very long time and making this tradition 16th annual now. This has been quite a thing for you.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and I like to show off the pride of Norwegian culture, the foods, and traditions. And we are so lucky to have a revamped kitchen that's brand new, and we have daily lunches and pie days and different things, different events every night. And we have this awesome, very great place in there. It's called the Troll Lounge. It kind of sounds a little scary, but we have a lot of wood carving figures on the walls that get alive during the night, and they come back and the next day, and they all do trolley things. So you guys should come in and check out the Troll Lounge event from Tuesday through Saturday every night. So it's a lot of fun things going on down there.
Of course, the food is the big thing. Obviously, people love their meatballs and less kind of traditions. And I know you got waffles, a little flatbread is always a kind of thing. And you mentioned ramagrat, so I mean, just talk about that a little bit.
Oh, the ramagrat is really good. It's kind of like a porridge pudding, kind of, and we put cinnamon and sugar on it, and it's a really good kind of a dessert. Back in Norway, it's more like a meal, but here it's more served like a dessert. So it's really good. And we also have the almond ring cake. It's a very famous cake that is used for weddings in Norway, called kransekake, and so forth. So that's really great.
Excellent. And you sent me some pictures. You guys were slaving away, huh? Holy cow! You guys have been busy.
Yeah, we were out the sun from before noon till after 8 last night. So it was a long day, but it was fun, and hopefully we have a lot of people who will come and enjoy that. So that'd be fun.
And again, this also benefits a really nice a portion of the tickets also to a very nice cause too, right?
Yeah, the portion of tickets. The last few years, I've been doing a silent auction, and all that silent auction income has been donated to Concordia Language Villages Norwegian camp, and it's called Skogfjorden. I raised about $16,000 to that. In the last couple of years, I did not have a silent auction, but I did donate some of the tickets sales anyway for the Sons of Norway Youth Club at the Sons of Norway and Concordia Language Villages. So it's fun to give back to what we need to continue to have the traditions and culture alive with the youth that are coming up too.
Very good. And again, very easy to get tickets, right? At a couple places that you can go to?
Yeah, you can go to FargoUnderground.com, FargoUnderground.com. Right there on the top banner, there's the Norwegian flag. Just click on that a few times. You'll get your tickets right away. Or you can go downtown on Broadway to Starbucks Scandinavian Imports at 406 Broadway. And that phone number is 282-0421. And you can call Sue there, and she'll be happy to hold on some tickets for you, or you can go there and get them. And if you're there, you should also check out the awesome chocolate variety if she has from Scandinavia. It's really good chocolate. So check that out as well. And tickets are $30 for the whole shebang from 6 to midnight. If you are doing other things in the evening and can make it before 8, 9 o'clock, you can come and dance to the front fenders from 9 p.m.-ish, and it's only $10. And you can also get that ticket on FargoUnderground.com. So it's a good night, and hopefully we'll have a great time again as we used to have.
All right. Well, very good. And I think you mentioned before, there's a cap on this too, right? You can only hold so many people, so you might want to take advantage of this as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm only selling 250 tickets because if it gets to be too many people, it's not that cozy, It's just more. It's more nice and higgly when it's just right amount of people, and you can mingle and go around. And we have the Troll Bar will be open, and I had the first ever herring martini on Wednesday. That was amazing. So if you guys want to try the herring martini there with dill akivit, it's really amazing. So try that on out.
A herring martini. There's something that I've never heard of before, right?
I know, because we just made it up last Wednesday.
Just the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, and people,
we got some new famous. We got some great new bartenders in the Troll Lounge, so they're helping to make some new drinks there.
Very good. Well, I know that you had you a couple of years ago you were in studio with me and you brought in some glog, and we didn't tell the the managers about this, but it was kind of getting to the end of the day anyway, right? I mean, why not?
Yeah. Well, that was alcohol free anyway. So.
Oh, it was. Oh, so
yeah.
If
you like to spike it up, we say you can go and you can buy your own shots or whatever you like to mix it in at the Sons of Norway, but I can't make 20 gallons with alcoholic stuff,
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, no, that's alcoholic free, but if you want to put something in there, that's on your own. So you're welcome to.
Very good. And Norwegian shaped waffles anyway. I mean, we should maybe clarify, me being with my last name Hanson, obviously what is exactly a Norwegian shaped waffle?
Well, you missed out the heart there.
Oh.
So Norwegian heart shaped waffles.
Oh.
So yeah, their waffles are more fluffy and very nice. It's not like hard and crispy like the Belgian waffles. They're more fluffy, and they are shaped. There's 5 hearts in one waffle. So then you can tear them apart and you can eat one heart at a time. And with different kind of toppings, for example, honey with brown cheese on it, or sour cream and strawberry jam, or cloudberry jam, or this whole whatever you like to put on things, you can put it on there. So actually this Thursday on December, 2nd, they have waffle night at Sons of Norway as well. So if you want to check them out before Saturday, you are welcome to join there too.
I'm about ready to go at any time because, I got called into duty here, so I haven't had breakfast. I'm a little hungry. So this is, we're talking about all this great food. It's a torture to me right now. All right, Frody, thanks so much. It's good to talk to you again. Hopefully I'll run into you very soon, all right?
Yeah, it's great to be on with you again, and God Jul, Merry Christmas in Norwegian. So everybody have a good holiday season.
All right, very good. Thanks so much, Frody. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
You bet. Frody Tilden again with us. It is the traditional Norse Christmas event going on this Saturday at 6 p.m. at the Sons of Norway, hosted by Frody Tilden, and just a great event. You can check out all the information there and just get the details. Again, if you want to call for more information, 701-282-0421 to get your tickets to that great event. Me as a Norwegian kid, that's kind of fun to talk to him a little bit about that. But now I'm really hungry. We had a tradition, and on the Hanson side of the family, all my great aunts, they lived out by Pelican Rapids, lutefisk and meatballs and mashed potatoes every Christmas Eve. I could not do the lutefisk.
Yeah, no, not the lutefisk.
But the meatballs and mashed potatoes were so good. Oh, my heavens. I don't know if Too Tall Tom Szymanski actually had You ever have lutefisk at your Christmas Eve like the Hanson family?
No, I would just assume feast on a bowl of acorns. Acorns with vinegar on top.
Yeah, I've never understood it. It's I said, now I know you got to butter it up and maybe put some pepper for a lot of people that do that. For me, I just don't know. I can't do it.
So disguise the flavor.
Exactly, but for me, the first time I tried it, it just tasted like fish flavored Jello. I mean, who wants fish flavored Jello? You ever accidentally had a sardine pizza? Remember anchovy pizzas were kind of a thing.
I don't like anchovies. I like sardines. Okay. Sardines are okay, but anchovies, can do without.
Yeah, that just it didn't sit right with me. But the meatballs and mashed potatoes.
Oh gosh, yeah, I could do that all day.
Mm-hmm. No. What's your family's go-to then for Christmas, or was it?
Oh gosh, it's been so long since I was a kid. We usually did like a ham and maybe another turkey for Christmas. But now as an adult, we do prime rib.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
that's for sure. My once my great aunts all passed, so we started doing Christmas. Then our immediate family, we kind of do it, and we started making lutefisk. And the Cocker Spaniel we had, Sparky, he would sniff up in the air, and he'd like, "What is that?" And he had a great nose. He was not a big fan of that. And it would steam up the windows, so it'd get it nice and warm in there.
Now, see, the first hint should be the dog doesn't like it.
Yeah, if a dog doesn't like the smell of something or the food, that is not a good sign.
No insult against people who like lutefisk, to each their own, It's the same way I feel about liver. I know some people that love liver, but no.
Yeah, well, Fonzie didn't like liver too. Remember that?
I remember that was Fonzie liver episode. Yep.
Mm-hmm. He hated liver. Well,
wait. I got to ask you before I go real quick here. There's 3 smells you got to pick the worst one of. Okay, liver, lutefisk, or that smell of old perms that Grandma used to give Mom in the kitchen.
I didn't mind that.
Which is the worst one? You can think about that. They're all bad.
I didn't mind the lutefisk smell. It's just the taste of it, because the lutefisk smell kind of cleared my sinuses, and bring it was better than humidifier in the house.
I lost my big chance to eat lutefisk when I had COVID, and I lost my sense of smell and taste. I would have tried it then. Oh, my goodness. Okay, we got to get back here on track. We've gone off track here in a bad way, but that's okay. It was kind of funny. We got a gusty northwest wind here and there across.
Froda Tilden just messaged me, said, hey, speaking of lutefisk, yeah, we do have December 19th also. That's their lutefisk dinner. So just want to get that out there. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp here on the News and Views Radio Network. Abby Miller is producing. Let's get to Jim. Jim, thanks for being with us here on News and Views.
Yeah, have you ever had beastie pudding or a custard, from your Norwegian heritage? We grew up with dairy farmers. So.
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah, you take the first milk out of a fresh cow, it's colostrum. Usually the second one I always like best, and you just put it in the oven, you mix honey and cinnamon and nutmeg, and you slow cook it, and it turns into like a custard.
Really?
Sort of solid. Yeah, and it's an old Norwegian dish. And it's called beastie pudding if you look on the internet. And it was a tradition started when in the spring, the newborn calves, and then there was a feast because it was the sign of new life beginning, I guess, if that's the history of it.
Wow.
And my wife was going to see a surgeon in Fargo there at Essentia, and he found out we were dairy farmers, and he asked if we had any colostrum, and my wife said, yeah, we always get. Well, my wife wants to get some colostrum and make this. So we brought a gallon jug one day and handed it to the nurse, and she didn't know what to do with it.
Wow. Yeah. Now what?
Then we seen him later, and he said, yeah, she made it. She really loves it, but I not so much. But
So are you still a part of the dairy farm, or is that...
Oh, yeah, I've got 5 vertebrae screwed together, and my both shoulders are shot, and they need replacing, and one knee's been replaced, and the other one really needs to be replaced, so it's just a matter of time when I pull the pin on it.
Oh, my heavens. Well, God bless you for what you do. It's a labor of love, but it's a lot of labor. That's what I always said.
Yeah, but, the kids hate it when they're young, but when they get older, they sort of think back at it, and they think it was a good way to get raised.
Oh, there's no question. I have one of my good friends from high school. He hated getting up, and then he'd go do that, and then he'd go to school, then he'd do football practice, then he'd go home and milk again. But he couldn't. He just misses it so much. I just don't understand. It was like a love-hate relationship. Jim, thanks so much. I do appreciate it.
Yep.
You bet. Thanks so much for being with us on short notice. Hopefully we'll get Joel back very soon. Derek Hanson in for Joel Heitkamp. Enjoy this week. Hard to believe it's December coming up. News and Views Radio Network.